Hey guys, I'm Prodigy from Airsoft Team Kilo23. Last time we checked out the externals and the solid build of the SOG 68 from Echo 1. Now we're checking out the internals. I've heard some really good things about it, but let's go inside of it and see exactly what's in there. Now before we start taking this gun apart, let me point out that disassembling this gun is going to be a little bit different than your traditional M4. Because the gun has a one-piece hop-up instead of the traditional two-piece, we actually have to disassemble the lower receiver, then take the gearbox out of the upper receiver. It's a little bit of a different process, but I'll show you how to do it. First things first, go ahead and open up the handguard of the battery compartment and disconnect the wiring assembly. This assembly does use quick detach connectors, so you will have to remove the heat shrink on these to do that. It can be a little tricky at first, but you'll get the hang of it. You just need an X-Acto knife and it makes it really easy. Getting the stock apart really isn't that difficult. The hard part's getting it back together. Just make sure you understand the mechanism, and it's really not that difficult once you practice it a little bit. But to disassemble it, there are two screws. The bottom screw here, which screws into the sling loop, and the screw right in the middle there, and that'll screw into the long rod right here. Way down in the buffer tube hole is the large screw that screws into the spring guide. You will need a pretty long screwdriver to get that out. It is a Phillips head, so it makes it a little easier if you have a screwdriver that's at least 8 inches long or so. After that's been loosened, you can simply pull it off. Once that monster of a stock has been removed, go ahead and remove the pistol grip assembly. So that's the two screws at the bottom, the motor plate, the motor itself, and the two screws holding the grip on. Then remove the magazine catch and the two body pins that hold the body together. Also, don't forget to punch out this small pin right in the middle of the body. Don't forget that. With the pistol grip removed, we can actually check out the motor now. It is pretty much a standard motor. Nothing super torquey or special about it. As the Echo 1 trades on both sides, you can spin the pinion. There isn't a lot of torque there, but it's enough to get the spring pulled. Once that pin's out, this is the interesting part. Put your thumb on the back right side here and apply pressure to the back of the gearbox. That way the lower receiver can slide off the gearbox. Your bolt catch will probably fall off here, so don't lose that. And you can slide your lower receiver away. That just leaves your gearbox, your upper receiver, and your hop-up. I'm going to go ahead and slide this out. You kind of have to push it down a little bit to get this notch past there. Your wiring's going to slide out, and so will your hop-up chamber. That's pretty tight in there. It seems to get a really good air seal. Set that aside. We have our gearbox and our hop-up assembly. Now the hop-up unit is a clear plastic, black dials, kind of a nice little aesthetic touch, looks cool. Got Mad Bull's orange bucking here. Those are really good. I love these a lot actually. I've gotten really good consistency, accuracy, and FPS out of these. Pretty tough spring on the front, so it's going to get a good air seal. It's going to push the hop-up chamber against the gearbox really tightly. Finally, the crowning on the barrel looks pretty nice. The barrel is roughly 275 millimeters long. With the hop-up and the motor and all the other crucial internals out of the way, we can move on to the gearbox. Nice black shell. You can tell it has 8mm bearings in here. That's a first. I haven't seen that from Echo 1 yet. And of course, it's got their Echo 1 logo on here. It's got a lot of torque screws. Let's go ahead and get those out of the way. Now with the last screw out, we can go ahead and open up the gearbox shell for the first time. First impressions of this gearbox are actually pretty good. Not too much grease buildup, not a lot of grease at all, but that can be a good and a bad thing. It's better than having tons of grease spit everywhere, but, you know, could use a little bit more though. Now I'm going to go ahead and take everything out of this gearbox and talk about every little bit in detail. Let's go ahead and check out the cylinder assembly. It's going to include the piston, piston head, cylinder head, nozzle, and tappet plate. This is pretty much where all the air compression, minus the hop-up, actually happens inside of the gun. Let's just go ahead and test it, see what the air seal's like. Air seal is really strong. I'm very surprised. It's almost perfect, not quite. That's really good. The piston head is plastic and ported. It also appears to have bearings just inside of it as well. The piston itself shows a little bit of wear on the teeth after general use, not too much though. You can see it's got the speed rails here for getting grease in there, and it's got the second to last tooth removed. Now it actually looks like it's been manually shaved down. The nozzle is just a standard nozzle. There is no O-ring inside of it. Tappet plate feels strong enough. The cylinder is a polished chrome and has a port just about in the right place for the barrel length. You could probably put a slightly longer barrel in there without a problem. And it looks like the cylinder head is sealed really well inside of it. The cylinder head itself just has one O-ring, but it seals inside the cylinder really well, and it does have a rubber damper inside of it. The gears themselves look pretty solid. Let's go ahead and take them out here. I'm not seeing any shims here. That's a little different from most guns. Now the gear spacing, I hesitate to call it shimming because there are no shims in here, is actually pretty good. The only thing I would tighten up a little bit is the sector gear here. Wouldn't really need too much, to be honest. But the gears actually spin pretty smoothly in there. Again, you can see that the gears sit inside of some 8mm bushings. These actually feel pretty smooth, not too much wobble between them. Checking out the trigger assembly, looks like the trigger shuttle contact isn't too bad. I probably wouldn't run an 11.1 LiPo on this, at least not without shimming it and re-greasing it, of course, and maybe correcting the AOE just a little bit. Finally, the spring and spring guide, really the last internal components we have to look at. The spring feels like it's about an M120 power, so maybe a little bit less. And the spring itself is just a regular metal spring guide. No bearings, but the fact that it's metal does help. I've had some plastic ones break on me in the past. Metal, gonna be more durable. Overall, the internals of this gun are actually pretty solid. You get really a handful of upgrades for the base cost of a gun. I would say the piston is a little bit of an upgrade, the bearings of course a little bit extra, Mad Bull hop-up bucking right there. Now I will also post a link to Brian from Echo One's video on the SOG 68 and a link to his page so you can check out his other awesome videos. Thanks for watching. I'm Product Chief from Airsoft Team Kilo23. Take it easy, guys.